Manifestation 101. I've set this up in 3 seasons of human growth and development. We're going to start with season 1. Now, this represents the inner child, the version of ourself that is most youthful, enthusiastic, imaginative, and most expansive. This is the version of ourself that is authentic, very bold, and very fearless. And this season can also represent 0 to 5, 5 to 9. Because in this period is when our self-esteem is most high and we don't have doubt, shame, and uncertainty that is very heavy in our mind. This is the season of freedom, and this is the season of possibility, vastness. So this is the season of the inner child, and I call this season vision. First, there was vision, right? The vision, we can see it as our guiding force. We can see it as our inner knowing, right? Our niche, our creative edge, right? Now, this vision comes naturally, right? When you look at children and they have this creative edge that makes them special, and every kid has their own creative edge, right? And as a child, the childhood is meant to explore that creative edge, right? So from 0 to 5, 5 to 9, it's a time of play for a child, and it's a time for imagination, for them to explore the spiritual realm, the psychic realm, to explore nature, right? So vision is a seed, right? It's a basic seed, right? A basic seed that a child has, and it's underdeveloped, of course, right? It's underdeveloped, but the child, or the inner child, when it goes to the seed, right? As you can see, all children, going to the seed, this child comes alive, right? It gives them this glow. It gives us this radiance, right? So it's a vision. It's connecting with the inner child, right? Through bringing about freedom to our lives. Because again, it is difficult for the inner child to express itself when it's very confined, right? And it's very confined within an environment with people, places, and things that create a block or a limitation, right, in one's ability to explore the imagination, right? So with our vision, a vision is more of we can see it as a sort of a simplifying of your life, right? Because the inner child doesn't need all this stuff, right? Doesn't need all these people, places, and things, right? So it's really about connecting with more of a simplistic lifestyle or a minimalist lifestyle, right? Where you can really start to feed your imagination, because you really don't need all this stuff, this American dream sort of stuff, and all these people, places, and things, and all these noises, and all these extra things, and extra ties, and a lot of unnecessary burdens, right? So really the vision, how we start to really unlock, right, our creative edge, because that's all what we really want to develop, is our creative edge, our niche, right? That makes us extraordinary, makes us original, right? So how we do that is through simplifying our life, right? So the places, persons, and things, and creating more of a minimalist sort of life, where our imagination can prevail, right? Where imagination can really dominate. And in that imagination really expanding, right? Because our time and all our energy isn't given all these extra ties and these ruts and all these people, places, and things that a lot of them are just unnecessary. It's like burdens that we really don't need, right? Clearing that all out and getting back to the basics. So in the start, we're just in the basics, right? Which is, I have a vision. My inner child has this freedom to explore that vision. So in this season, I have three bullet points, you can say, right? So this is the season of the vision. This is the season where you're connecting with your inner child. And like I said, you do that through freedom. You do that through natural earth science. When I mean earth science, it's like exploring the elemental realm, right? And we could do that through forest bathing, surfing. Usually it involves a sort of participation with nature, because children are most inspired by earth. That's when their vision is really open, when they're outside in nature. That's when children most come alive, when they're climbing trees and working in the garden, and there's this great expansion that happens within a child's mind when they're in nature or participating in like a earth science. So how we can participate in an earth science to really activate this inner child is getting involved like in a pottery class, because that is like an earth science, right? Getting involved in like a forest bathing practice, right? Or even surfing, right? Or even painting, because it is also earth science, right? It's you're cultivating the earth, right? Paint come from the earth, right? And painting is first inspired by the earth, right? And viewing the earth and getting inspired by the earth and the landscape and the beauty, right? Anything of beauty is about an earth science, right? Anything of beauty, a natural beauty that is very simple, it's very expressive, and it creates this freedom, is like an earth science. So that's how we activate that inner child, right? Creating a practice or a routine of getting involved in the earth, right? Either that be gardening, surfing, forest bathing. It could even be a Kundalini yoga, something that really gets you connected to your elemental self, where you're very grounded. You almost have this deep connection to animals and connection to the plants, and you have a deeper connection and a fondness and a closeness with the trees and the tree systems and the ocean and the mountain, right? And the seasons that are going on wherever you are living. So we activate the vision, right, through nature and the simplicity, the sort of basic rhythm of nature that doesn't have any ties, any ruts, any extra obligations, extra burdens. It's very simple, it's very basic, it's very clean, it's very minimalist, right? Nature. So the first bullet I have is enhancing vision. And how we enhance vision as a child from 0 to 5, 5 to 9, and how we do that even as an adult, is enhancing our vision is through freedom to explore, right? So enhancing our vision is like, we call it a meditation, we call it a sit down, we call it a stillness, we call it a focus, right? And enhancing our vision is when we're focusing on something, focusing on the creative edge, the creative niche, right? Focusing on it, right? Kind of exploring it in our mind. We may not have a strategy or a plan, but we're just in our contemplation, exploring it. So this whole season is more about a contemplation, right? Like the inner child, or you see children in nature, they're more so in a deep contemplation. They may be playing and climbing up trees, but overall they're in a deep contemplation when they look at birds or bees or listen to dogs or play in the grass or climb in the river. It's more of like there's a deep fondness and a deep contemplation, right, that they're in. So enhancing vision, it's giving ourselves the freedom to explore, right? So again, person, places, or things that we have to look at that. Am I creating unnecessary burdens, right? Am I getting involved in things that maybe are unnecessary for me, right? So again, this path is about creating a simple life and creating more of a minimalist life so that the imagination could prevail, right? So that our intention is not wandering to all these distractions, right? Because when we have all these ties and these ruts with all these person, places, or things that could be necessary and unnecessary, it really, it just takes away from our focus and our concentration, right? So freedom to explore, right? So this period of vision is, I see it as like a pilgrimage. And a lot of people take pilgrimages, or they go on a hiatus, where it's basically about them being connected to the earth to enhance their vision, right? To really connect with God through prayer, through meditation, so that they can really start to feel their creative edge. And I'm telling you, those people who have a deeper connection to their inner child, who have more freedom and playfulness, and they don't seem to like clog their life up with all this extra stuff, tend to have more of a vision, right? Even when we look at visionaries like Nikola Tesla, Da Vinci, these individuals, even Einstein, these individuals were very simple. They had the simple lifestyle. They lived very much a minimalist lifestyle, and most of their life was spent in the state of contemplation, in the state of what I call earth science, where they're literally just connecting with the earth, and they're just watching the earth, literally. And that's why these individuals, all of these three individuals, were most connected with their inner child, because they set up their life. They didn't have a lot of noise. They didn't have a lot of chatter. They didn't have a lot of person, place, or things, this bar scene. They didn't participate in this bar scene of distractions, and there's just all these noises. A lot of them, they spend most of their time in a state of contemplation, in a state of just sitting in nature and looking out and being inspired, right? There was this stillness about these three visionaries, right? So there's something about the inner child. There's something about having freedom through living a simplest lifestyle, right? Where you're not so demanding of the earth. You're more generous. You're more respectful of the earth, right? So enhancing vision is freedom to explore. So really setting up your time, right? Your day, right? By kind of clearing away these distractions, right? That we have so many, and we're addicted to it. We have a habit of it, that it really pulls us away from our inner child, and it pulls us into all kinds of personas and personalities, and these sort of ego tricks that we do to ourselves and other people we do it a lot of times to fit in. But the vision is nothing to do with the fit in. The vision is most connected with the future, a futurist. So any visionary person that I've mentioned, Nikola Tesla, Da Vinci, Einstein, they were visionary because they were futurists. They could go into the future and they already knew what they were going to do, but they just needed to prepare themselves for it. So when distractions are not about the futurist, distractions are about a cycle of forgetfulness. Right? A distraction is a cycle of forgetfulness, meaning when you're distracted at the bar scene, you're most likely, if you go into the bar and you have an idea of something you want to execute, when you come out of that bar, most likely you will forget, right, what it is you need to do, right? And then throughout the week, right, you'll get the idea again, or if you're lucky enough, the idea may come to you again, but then you go to the bar scene Friday, and then you forget it again, and then you keep going, right? It's a cycle of forgetfulness. And a vision is not about a cycle of forgetfulness. A vision is about a cycle of tapping into your future self, right? And getting the rewards of that, because when you're tapped into this futurist sort of self, you get the rewards of that, meaning you can see what you need to do, right? Because when you see this sort of future self, you can really tap in to see, okay, I need to prepare myself and I need to train myself in this way. So Nikola Tesla, Da Vinci, all their sort of sketches or ideas were based off of them being able to connect with their future self and reap the reward of being able to have a connection to their future self, which is they were ahead of the trend, they were a pioneer, and that has nothing to do with fitting in. That has nothing to do with drinking from the Kool-Aid, right? Most of us, we lose that inner child when we start drinking from the Kool-Aid. We start trying to fit in, and then in fitting in, we demand so much of people, demand so much of the earth. I need to be validated. I need to get recognition now. I need to have this American dream. I need to have all these things. I need to have all this stuff. I need to have all these relationships. And what happens is we obtain all this stuff, but then realize that the creative edge that we once had in our inner child, it goes away, and what we become is the same as everybody else. And a part of manifestation is not about being the same as everybody else, right? It's about the vision quest is about really coming into creative expansion. And that's what manifestation is about. It's about creative expansion. It's not about same, repeat, and everybody just drinking from the Kool-Aid. It really is about, when you say the word manifest, you're saying, I want creative expansion, not just for myself, but for my culture, for my ethnic group, or for this planet, right? I want creative expansion. So individuals who will participate in any sort of era of enlightenment, era of spirituality, era of technology, or, Renaissance, any of these kind of these individuals who are, way showers for these kind of renaissances, these renaissances all have to do with creative expansion, right? It's big energy, right? It's big energy. Now we can manifest this in other ways, but overall, when we are manifesting like a new job, or manifesting like a new pet, or manifesting a new home, or travel, or love, you're sending out a signal that I want creative expansion, right? I want to move beyond the patterns of the old, the patterns of the past is what you're saying. I want to move beyond the patterns of the past. That's what you're saying when you say, I want to manifest. I want to move beyond the patterns of the past. And really how we are able to lead ourselves is through the inner child, because the inner child is most free. And really, in order to have that sort of imagination, to be able to see beyond your limitation, is you have to have a really free energy, a very free mind. And unfortunately, a lot of us adults, we're more so in this bar scene, or we're more so in this cycle of forgetfulness, right? We're more in a distraction, right? And the American dream can be a distraction. All these person, place, or things that we're tied to, and we're bound to, and we're burdened with, it can create a big distraction where, we can be in a stage of a cycle of forgetfulness. Now, a lot of things we can go through. Again, we're all on our individual path, and I see the three things that we really come here to do is learn, experience, and serve, right? So if we have experiences, we need to have experiences, right? We need to go through. We'll go more into the seasons, but we need to go through the past, right? Such as the patterns of the past, meaning, you're manifesting jobs, partnerships that have to do with the past. And when I see karma, we talk about karmic partnership, where, literally it's dealing with the past. Something in your childhood, you're dealing with it. Something from your parents, you're dealing with it. Something even from your grandparents, you're dealing with, or something in the society that's a past. It's making a past decision when we call about karmic partners. Could even be past life, right? So that's what we talk about, the karmic pattern, or, a karmic relationship, or karmic job, right? It's basically you're repeating the past. It might not even be yours. It might be you're repeating your mommy's past, or your grandpa's, right? Or society's past. But dharma, we talk about dharma as in a dharma career, a dharma partner, a relationship. It's really about the future. It's a futurist sort of path. And that's very different, right? That's more so about being visionary, about, having a vision and the inner child to lead it, and moving beyond the past patterns, right? Is becoming something original, something, a renaissance. Dharma is about a renaissance. Karma is about, let me repeat the past. Let me participate in the past, right? Because there's something in my past unresolved. There's something in my past that's still I'm hanging on to. There's something in my past that's really heavy in my psyche, or my subconscious, in my past lives. I have some scars, wounds, right? So we go through, we learn the past, we experience the past, and we serve the past until it's completed, and then we begin to move forward, right? So a lot of us, when we talk about partnerships, careers, marriages, whatever it is that feels karma or feels karmic, right? Or basically karma is you're looking at the past, right? Something of the past. Like, you're repeating your relationship, your mom and dad, something past life, you're repeating a childhood wound, a teenage kind of dysfunction, whatever it is. We learn from it, meaning in order to learn you have to go to, it's like you gotta actually sit down and do the thing, right? You experience it, meaning you experience a sort of, experiences usually you feel sort of shooken up by it, right? It kind of wakes you up, it gets you thinking, right? It gets you thinking and reviewing and like having this moment of, okay, there's something going on. And then service is meaning you serve it. You're aware, okay, this pattern relationship is about a past thing in my childhood that I saw, that I, repressed in me, and now I'm living it out again. Let me serve it, meaning it needs something of me. In my resolution, my peace, my farewell, my participation and paying attention, right? It needs my attention. And once you give it to it, whatever it is, a relationship, a job, that you keep repeating the same past thing, that it keeps you in a cycle of the past. Once you serve it and you serve it the right thing it needs, the right medicine, then you can start to move beyond it, right? Because once you've healed it, you can start to move beyond, right? It's no longer festering. It's no longer faltering you. It's no longer creating this sort of arrhythmia in you, right? That really we keep playing out until we learn, we experience, and we serve it. We serve it well, right? And that gives us this sense of completion, this sense of accomplishment. Because really we can't move on from these karmic relationships, karmic jobs, whatever it is that's in the past, until we start to feel accomplished about it. And that's why we keep repeating, because really we can't move forward until we've accomplished it, right? It's like you can't really successfully say you move on from one level of education to the next level of education if you didn't really feel accomplished with the first one. You'll be going on to the second level of education, and you won't feel resolved. You'll feel like you cheated yourself, or you won't feel like you've actually learned anything, or if you learned the lesson. Right? And in the spiritual realm, we have, it seems, we have all time a day, basically, kind of thing, right? Because we have multiple lifetimes, and we love incarnating as humans, right? But, the frustration that we get, or the stagnation we get, is basically our soul is saying, no, I don't want to spend my whole life in a pattern of the past. And that's why we get frustrated and we get stagnant, is because your soul is basically yearning, saying, no, I don't want to be a pattern of the past. That's not what I came here to do. I came here to be a vision, to have a vision, connect with my inner child, and connect with the futurist that I am, right? That's what we all really desire, is just with the past, the cycles of the past and the job and the career, we have to learn, we have to experience, and we have to serve it. Right, in the way that we complete it, and we feel accomplished, so that we can move to the next phase, so we can start to free ourselves up, because cycles of the past is not very freeing, right? Cycles of dharma is extremely freeing, because the whole identity of dharma is about expanding your life. The whole identity of the karma and the repeating the past is about keeping yourself where you're at. So which path seems more exciting, right? Expansion of who you are. That's more exciting than just keeping myself where I'm at. That seems really boring. And that's why a lot of people get frustrated, and they get even agitated, or they get very, just stagnant, because their karma is like just a cycle of the past, like just keeping them where they're at. And they're like 25, 35, 45, and like they're still where they're at. Like we can grow in our financial, material world, or spiritual world, or vice versa, either one. But ultimately, when it comes to manifestation, we want creative expansion, and creative expansion is different, right? It's different. than just, you become more credible in your material or your spiritual realities. It's more so about bringing in a renaissance, right? Bringing in a creative uh, a creative amazement, right? That, I mean, we can have all the material, all the spiritual, but do we really have this sense of like a creative amazement? And I think that's what we're really wanting to connect with, that being able to be in sync with the earth and to learn the earth and the ways of the earth from a higher dimensional point of alchemy. And that's why we take this pilgrimage of vision, because we really do want to learn from the earth, because this is about learning from the earth. This is not the bar scene. This is about going to the earth, going to the mountain, the cold mountain, going to the desert, right? Or, going to the ocean, these kinds of things, to really, really, when you're in nature and you're in nature a lot, your vibration is rising, right? Your vibration raises. And what that means is that you're beginning to connect with more of a higher dimensional alchemy, right? Like, and people who do these kinds of things connect deep with nature. A lot of them, they do tend to be very prolific in their imagination and their ideas. Meaning people who, have a closeness, a fondness with earth, right? Very, connected to the plants and the animals and the whole landscape thing. They're very, aware of the elemental reality, the fairies, the leprechauns, the elves, these kinds of things. They tend to be very prolific, more so than the person who's just hanging at the bar scene all day. Because the bar scene is about distraction, forgetfulness. While being in nature, the garden or the mountain is really about remembrance of ancient history, remembrance of the spiritual realm, remembrance of your soul, remembrance of your past lives, your future lives. And it's a very different reality than the bar scene. Because it's about remembrance, and the more that you remember, the more prolific you tend to be in your imagination and in your ideas. So, enhancing vision is freedom to explore. So I think we went deep in that, right? Just like individuals who, live very close to nature, or set up their lives where nature is everywhere around them, really have more prolific ideas and a higher imagination, because they're not blocked by the bar scene kind of distractions that are everywhere accessible, right? This relationship and this thing and that thing and the American dream and all these hustling things that exhaust us, because you cannot be vision or have an in vision or tap with your inner child when you're drained by all these distractions that are draining you. You cannot have a vision when you're drained, right? Because you're participating on all this forgetfulness that keeps you procrastinating, keeps you in a rut, keeps you not following through on what you need to do. It's just keeping you kind of at what we call karma, where you're literally just repeating the past, like the bar scene. It's like literally you just keep doing the same thing again and again, right? You're just repeating the bar scene and you're just keep feeding yourself the same. While the Dharma is about, even if you live in the same nature area for your whole life, right? The same nature area that you've lived since decades, right? The difference between that, like the bar scene, is that nature is about expansion. Bar scene is not about expansion. So the difference between nature, and you could go the same spot every day, is that nature is about change. Nature, you go the same nature spot every day for 2 decades, it will not ever be the same, because nature is about creative expansion to the finest. And that's why people go to nature on retreats or pilgrimages, because really when you're connected more to nature, your mind just naturally opens. You remember things, like you remember past lives, like you remember your future self, you remember higher dimensions. You can speak to the spirits of the ancestors, the elementals, the fairies, leprechauns, right? You start to become more childlike in the way that you start to become more sensitive and aware of the magic. Like, again, alchemy, you become aware that there's a higher alchemy order that's going on that I'm completely unaware of until I start to remember through enhancing my vision by being in nature and being free and simple, right? Then the second bullet I have is refining vision. Now, refining vision is more of like an active participation, meaning we went from contemplation, like children just kind of hanging in the river, just, there for hours, just who knows what they're doing, right? Just kind of counting the pebbles, looking at the fish, and like becoming creatively amazed by everything. And then we get into refining vision, and that's more of like you're stepping into a contemplation activity, right? Where you're starting to participate in something, right? Okay. So refining vision is about discipline and consistency. So this is when we start to get into where you start to affirm, right? Again, you've contemplated, you've made the freedom to explore, you've connected with nature and the earth. You're really feeling you have a lot of ideas and higher imagination because you are, you're very fresh, you're very clean, you're very youthful, because nature just does that to people, right? Then refining vision is about discipline and consistency, and that's when you're starting to affirm it to yourself. That's when you're starting to integrate this vision, right? When you're in the inner child, you're very childlike. You have a lot of freedom, right, to explore. You don't have all these burdens, all these extra ties, and these ruts, and all these American dreams, and all this stuff upon stuff that is just so much stuff that you don't even know what to do with all that, and it just really drains you. Then refining vision is about more of affirming it, right? And you can affirm it through a form of meditation, a self-hypnosis, a daily visualization practice, right? Refining the vision is starting to get into a plan with it, right? And in the beginning, again, inner child doesn't really necessarily have a plan. It's just completely magical. It just completely believes that what it wants or what it feels is right for them, or the creative niche, will be provided for. And that's the magic of the inner child, is that the inner child has total faith and knows that their creative edge will be provided for. Their creative expansion will receive prosperity, and they will be safe doing it. So refining vision is about really creating that sort of plan, right? Creating that sort of plan through kind of constructing it, right? We're starting to construct it in our aura and construct it in our energy through affirmation, right? And that's really a discipline where we're starting to get real with ourselves, we're starting to sit down with ourselves, and we're starting to really get truthful and honest, right? And with ourselves about what we need to do, right? In our routine, in our practice, in our weekly, daily schedule, to move our energy or our mind more so in alignment with the vision, right? So that we can start to feel more accomplished with our vision, so that it's not just something that's up in the clouds, but it's something that's becoming a ritual, or becoming routine, or becoming sort of like an organization that we feed daily in a subtle or in a big way. And then the last bullet point I have in this season of manifestation is charging vision. Now, charging vision is like, when you think of a charge, you think of like you're getting energy, you're giving energy. So giving energy is where we start to create vision boards, make lists, we start to assert something, where we're starting to, like, if you have a creative edge, that's something of music or poetry or pottery or writing, you start to take classes, right? You start to educate yourself, right? So refining vision is about getting in a sort of a routine or ritual, or some sort of daily, weekly time, 15 minutes, 15 minutes, a minimal, right? Basically, 15 to like 30 minutes where we just really visualize and really start to project ourselves to this futurist self that we are, where we're most expansive, right? And in kind of creating that connection between who we are today in this moment into this futurist of who we are, basically, right? We are timeless. There is no, past, present, future, right? As we're all breaking that down. You begin to raise your vibration naturally when you start to connect with this futurist that you are, when you start to create a routine, right? You start to set up your day where you are feeding yourself, nurturing yourself with a vision that is most creative, right? So it is really that deconstructs a lot of these sort of, conventions or these limitations or these restrictions that, again, about the karma and the repeating of the cycle, the past, right? So refining vision is really about deconstructing a lot of the karma, the past sort of cycle that your mommy, grandma might have been in, right? And through sort of in refining your vision, through connecting with this future self, through self-hypnosis, meditation, sort of affirmation, visualization. Basically, what you're doing is you are deconstructing the karma, the past, and you are sort of solidifying and you're establishing your dharma, which are there, and that's right. You're solidifying and establishing your dharma through refining your vision by participating in a subject that's about futurist, right? The subject of self-psychology, spirituality, the subject of meditation, the subject of Kundalini yoga. These are all about futurists. This is all a technology that's about a future, right? It's about a creative future. It's about expansion. Anything about expansion of your mind or your energy or your thought pattern is a futurist, right? So that's what refining vision is you're just beginning to establish your dharma, right? And that's what your creative edge is about. Your creative edge is about dharma, right? That you have as a child. It can be so simple, so subtle, and unrecognized by your parents if they don't pay attention, right? And a lot of parents, they don't pay attention. They see their child has this creative niche, this creative edge that keeps showing up within the child. And the parent is completely oblivious because the parent is caught in their own distraction, right? Of their own cycle of forgetfulness, their own bar scene, basically. They can't even pay attention because they're caught in their own bar scene in their thoughts or in their life, right? So the more we pay attention, right, as in that inner child frequency, right, through enhancing the vision, refining vision, charging vision, basically we're going to notice these subtle things about ourselves that we cannot notice if we're not paying attention. And that's what vision is. And that's why Nikola Tesla, Einstein, Da Vinci were visionary, because they could pay attention to the subtle things most people could not. Because a lot of people are so calcified by all their burdens and ruts and all their extra stuff and extra this and extra emotional baggage, mental baggage, physical baggage, all this extra stuff, that they can't pay attention because they have so many distractions that are demanding so much energy of them that by the time they want to focus on something, they're drained, right? So with charging vision, that's when we're starting to you can see getting to making vision boards, right? Making lists. You're starting to journal. You're starting to take a class. If you want to be a creative writer, you take creative writing class. If you want to be a painter, take a painting class, a pottery class, right? Whatever it is, you learn the guitar, we learn the piano. That's where you're starting to become an active participant of your vision, right? You're starting to feel it become real, right? So if your creative niche is creative edge is you really like Dr. Seuss, right? And as a child, you really like that. It's studying that. Maybe, taking a literature course that focuses on children books, right? That's one, right? But if we're not paying attention, right? Because we don't have this stillness or this simplicity, this minimalist life. We'll never know. We'll never bring value to these little things, these little quirks or little things about ourselves, right? Because when we have so much stuff, this American dream with all this stuff and all these people, places, and things, that a lot of it's just burdens and just unnecessary, we're never really going to have the sort of contemplation or the concentration to really see the subtlety of what our spirit is trying to show us. The subtlety of our spirit is trying to show us, hey, you've liked Dr. Seuss since you were 5 years old. Maybe you should take a course on children books. And you would never pay attention. You would never get that unless you had this sort of, inner child, this ability to be free and to connect with nature and to really give a lot of your energy and concentration to the sort of elemental realm that you are, right? Where you can really sense and connect with animals and the elemental, fairies and the plants and these things. So charging vision, again, is like, okay, I feel the subtlety, right? I've always liked Dr. Seuss since I was 5 years old. Maybe, it's been with me, and I keep having this feeling or this subtle awareness within me that, I just keep feeling this vision of doing this or that, but it's so quiet. Maybe let me, begin to kind of affirm it to myself, affirm that Dr. Seuss is guiding me in some way. And I may not know what it is, but the more that I do a discipline of establishing my creative edge and creative niche, the more that it's gonna build inside me. It's gonna construct inside me. And the more that it's built and more it's constructed inside me, the more I'm gonna be inclined in discipline to actually apply it and to apply myself into what I need to keep this vision, to keep building it. So that's when we start to getting into building it, like the blocks, the block upon block. That's when we start to build it, right? Through, and this could be like we're, 15 and we, our parents get us in dance class because their parents pay attention that naturally we have this rhythm, or a music class, or a science class, or whatever it is, right? They notice that we have this natural rhythm. They can see our niche. They can see our sort of the poetic justice that we feed ourselves as a child in nature, right? And the parents get us into these sort of structures, right? Or these educations that can really help us to build it, right? Because we're about building up our vision. Even Nikola Tesla, he took many classes of science, and Da Vinci, he took many classes of painting, right? And the same thing as Einstein, he took many classes of science, right? So he could build himself up. And that's what charging vision is about. Now you're starting to get a skill. You're starting to find a tool. You're starting to find a method, right? You're starting to come up with a thesis. You're beginning to enrich your mind with all subjects that have to do, with this creative edge, right? So in the second season of Manifestation 101, I call it movement. And movement is about character, right? Because when you're charging your vision, you starting to get skills, you're starting to get tools, you're starting to, you're starting to develop an awareness around the subjects, you're starting to pinpoint these subjects, you're starting to learn about the even individuals, right, who are very, could say, well-rounded in this subject, right? Like if you're learning guitar, you're starting to, kind of enrich yourself with individuals who are better than you, like meaning like guitarists that are really, good, that kind of thing. So it's really a charging vision. Is like you're enriching yourself. You're expanding yourself by pursuing expanders, right? So for example, my expanders in charging my vision, I have them on a vision board. My expanders that I've discovered that work for me and my inner child is J.K. Rowling, Michelle Gordon, Britt Marling, yes, these are these, and Mr. Rogers / Dr. Seuss. And when I look at all of these expanders and why I've chose them, everything they have in common is writing. So I'm drawn to these people just instinctually, right? It's almost like a what do you call, a moth to a flame, just instinctually. And when and this is over years, since I was maybe 16, 15 years old. And the reason why I'm drawn to these people like a moth to a flame is because these expanders, they all have something my inner child wants to explore in this life, wants to master, get really good at, which is writing, or something of higher imagination, something of sort of a spiritual fiction, or some sort of creative inventiveness, right? Because J.K. Rowling, creative inventiveness; Britt Marling, creative inventiveness; Dr. Seuss, Mr. Rogers, creative inventiveness, right? So you don't have to know exactly like it, like you just have this sort of, okay, creative inventiveness. That's something that my inner child has had since, you could say, I was 5 years old. Creative inventiveness. And all the expanders I've selected all have that. They're all they have this creative inventiveness that makes their sort of creative offering very very sort of the future of what we think of self-expression, right? So that's, my inner child is giving me clues to what it is that is my creative expansion, what I want to offer myself and offer this planet, right? So you will find your expanders naturally, like a moth to a flame. And they could be dead people like Mr. Rogers, right, that I have, Dr. Seuss that I have. It's usually people who are actually reaping, right? They're reaping what they sow, meaning they've sowed really good, they've sowed really bright ideas and they're reaping it, meaning the people are very prosperous. That's what your expanders are. People who are very prosperous, they're reaping what they sow, basically, that kind of thing. So charging vision is getting your expanders. You can get 4 expanders, you can get many, but really pick expanders that, again, they really, it's like a focus. They could be different, but it's like they give you a focus. All of them, there's something, they bring awareness to a sort of a single subject about that's in you, right? They bring you to your creative edge, right? So again, your expanders is about, again, creative expansion, right? So they should be in some way about you creatively being expansive, right? So it's not so much about how much money they make, because all my expanders make a different income, right? It's more so about the character, because we're getting into the character that they have created for themselves, and how lucrative, prolific that character is, how prosperous that character is, right? And you can look at the different character, like J.K. Rowling has a very, very prosperous, income, and Britt Marley probably not as much as J.K. Rowling, but they both have a character that is very, very enriched, right? They're both of them have a very wealthy character, we could say, right? In their expression and their integrity and just who they are, right? It's something that they have much to give, right? And that's what your expander should be. Individuals who have much to give. They're an empress. They're an emperor, right? They're not cheating themselves, and the creativity is very dull, and it feels weird, and they're wanky, and their characters like really low vibe and greedy and agitated. That's not a right expander, because expander is about a dharma. So pick expanders that are on a path of dharma, not about repeating the past, drinking from the Kool-Aid, following everybody else, kind of coward person. They may have a lot of money, but they're like a coward because they're just they're just deceiving everybody at the bar scene, right? You want somebody, expanders, that really, like, when you connect with them, they like open up your dharma. They get you moving towards your dharma. They motivate you towards your dharma. So that can even be like, if you're a composer, it could be like Hans Zimmer, right? Could be somebody that when you listen to their music, you just automatically, you're brought into dharma. You're brought into like creative expansion. You're brought into a futurist of greatness, basically. You're brought into a renaissance. Pick people who represent a renaissance, not people who, they have all this money, but then when you sit, when you look at them and their character, it's really wanky and it's draining, and they look like they've cheated themselves out at many things. So that's charging vision. Get your 3 to 4 expanders, again, that represent dharma, about creative expansion or renaissance, and they have this character that is very prosperous, right? Who they are represents like this higher dimension of accomplishment, right? Where they've gotten it purely from their talent, not from their sex or from their addiction or whatever, but through their talent. And every J.K. Rowling, Dr. Seuss, Mr. Rogers, Britt Marling, all of these individuals have gotten, they're reaping what they sow, because they've sowed talent that was very noble, very, very noble of them, right? So don't pick people, expanders, based off of their sex and how much attention they get for their sex appeal. Pick people who have this nobility, right? Where you look at them and they're like an empress. They're an emperor, meaning they have a lot to give. They have a lot to give, right? Not takers, drainers. They have a lot to give, right? They're not just seeking attention for their sex appeal or for their sort of shallow talks. They're getting recognition for their nobility in the arts or the science, whatever it is. So movement in season 2. Movement is about, building your character, becoming credible, getting your merit. Right? We talk about, getting your hours, right? Getting your hours in your subject. So if you started, let's say you started writing, right, at like 10 years old, and you kept writing and you're still writing today, that means you're getting credible, you're getting momentum, you're gaining merit, because this earth, right, is very much about merit. It's about credibility, right? If it wasn't about merit or credibility, we would have charlatans ruling the world. Because the charlatans, they know how to play the game of deception, right? So what really, brings the charlatans down and, indicts them and cuts them out, is that credibility and merit is really character. And you can see a character through its credibility and merit, right? So this is really about, movement is about like, when you're a dancer, right, your movement, when you're, Kundalini yoga, when you're, movement of painting or, brush strokes, or, movement of surfing, it's about, the skill of it is gained through your dedication, right? You never become a good surfer doing it once a month. You never become a good painter doing it once a month, a singer once a month. It's really about this dedication, right? And that's what movement is, right? Becoming really good at moving your body, your spirit, your energy, your life force is like a dedication. And the people who tend to have the best characters are those who have really dedicated themselves to this dharma or to this creative expansion, and have so much credibility and merit because they have done that for a long time. Right, so that's where we're starting to get into the beginning to build it up, building a character, starting to feel credible about it, right? Starting to become very well knowledgeable about this creative itch or creative edge, right? Becoming very knowledgeable, right? So the first bullet I have is follow through on creativity, and this is about talent and gift. So this is, again, follow through. Right? Follow through in your creativity. So this is about taking risks. This is about taking chances. This is about setting up your life where you can really focus on the creativity, the talent and gift, right? So again, all of these American dream distractions, person, place, or thing that just burden, rut, indebted stuff, all this car stuff, or all these expense stuff that we just get ourselves in, really won't help us when it comes to following through on our creativity. So we can have all spend all our money on all this stuff, to fit into the bar scene and please the bar scene and get recognition in the bar scene. But who wants recognition in the bar scene? By fake people who are just distracted and just kind of caught in their own forgetfulness. That's not exciting. That's boring, actually. Very, very boring. It makes you feel very stagnant. It makes you feel like you're wasting your time. So follow through on creativity is basically about, again, you're setting up your life, you're setting up your day where you're very smart. That's where following through on your creativity is where you're starting to get very smart. You're starting to get very, very smart, very clever, and you're starting to get very strategic, and you're also starting to get very, very magnetic, meaning, whatever it is that you're studying, right, that is something of a, creative niche, right, that follows the kind of, the expanders, like whatever it is you're studying from the expanders. J.K. Rowling, Dr. Seuss, Mr. Rogers, Brett Marley, like you're investing sort of time and energy on studying them, right? You start to get very smart about yourself, about what you're doing, right? You start to feel more accomplished. That's the thing. Follow through in your creativity, you feel more accomplished. When you're in the bar scene, you come home and you just pass out and people just don't feel very accomplished. They feel like, man, I waste my time. So really follow through in your creativity is really like when you get these ideas, it's like you do something about it. When you get the intuition, you get the imagination, you do something about it, right? When people make excuses, like all these excuses and delays because they're just forgetting. They forget. And then the delays and the excuses. So it's really setting up your life where you have no excuses, you have no delays, you have no distractions, you have no forgetfulness and all this extra ties and ruts and all these things, right? You set your life up where you can obey, right? And a lot of people, unfortunately, they can't obey their creativity because they set up their life where they have all this extra stuff that really they just got because they want to fit in and drink from the Kool-Aid. But now they've drank from the Kool-Aid and had these relationships and these kind of set up thing. It doesn't make them feel smart, right? It's like there's a dilemma, but they don't know how to solve it. And that's the great sort of entrapment that happens on this earth. There's a dilemma, but we don't know how to solve it because we don't have the smarts. And the smarts we gain, the cleverness we gain is through the creative the creative mind. Because the creative mind is a very prolific problem solver. Right? So follow through on creativity. Like you get the idea, you get the imagination, the intuition, you follow through, you take a risk, you take a chance because creative expansion is not for the light of heart. It's not about the past, it's about the future. So anything in the past is not going to work. You need a new tool that has nothing to do with the past. It has something to do with you expanding and gaining some sort of insight on the past, and then becoming very instinctual about the future, and then becoming very, very intuitive about what you need to do to sort of move and get your dharma going, right? So it's really about becoming smart in what you're doing, becoming intuitive about and having that foresight and having that sort of drive, right? that your expanders have. J.K. Rowling, Mr. Rogers, Dr. Seuss, Marley, they all had this drive to expand, not to be cycling in the past, but to expand beyond the past and to discover something new to Earth, something that isn't the past, something that's new. And that's what your creative edge is about. You want to bring something to Earth that is totally new, right? And unfortunately, we have individuals in the creative sort of world that they're not even, they've gotten it through their lineage, but who they are as a person is not anything of a renaissance. They're just repeating the same past stuff, and it's boring. It's like going to the bar scene and just keep, talking about the same thing all day that has to do with the past, right? So really, we want to bring something new, and you can know the difference between somebody who's fulfilling dharma, which is high prosperity, and someone that's fulfilling karma. Is a karma thing is about repeating the past stuff, drinking from the Kool-Aid, copying other people, plagiarism, stealing, charlatan, deception. You're just doing the same thing but changing up a little bit. No ideas, no originality. It's just blah. It's boring. It's the same. It doesn't really do anything. It doesn't make you feel smart, right? It's just kind of filler. It just fills you up, but it doesn't really feed you. It just fills you up with like fake bread, right? That kind of thing, right? But we don't want fake bread. We want the whole thing. We want the nice, good meal, not just some bread. We want a nice meal, and that's what the karma sort of creative people do. They feed you bread, and because you've had bread, maybe all you know is bread. But really what you want is you want a full course Vedic meal with the rice and the beans, and you want everything, right? And they can't give it to you because they themselves not even eating, a nice Vedic meal, because all they know is bread, because they actually haven't done the work. They're not credible as a creative mind, right? They only got where they're going because of their lineage. Because in our society, it's based on your lineage. You get the wealth you get the golden ticket into these, that, and the other because of your lineage. You don't need to be a creative mind. It's the lineage that gets you whatever you want, the golden ticket to this, that, and the other, right? And unfortunately, the lineage that do tend to get the golden ticket to all these privileged places is the white. Especially in the United States of America, it's the white. Right? The white are the privileged, right? And people, and that's why they're more inclined, because of their white lineage, to get golden tickets into this, that, and the other, right? The golden ticket to this industry, the music industry, the film industry, the art industry, all these, science industry, right? Because, it's the lineage. But how, all these expanders I mentioned, who happen to be white, but even like Nikola Tesla, Da Vinci, Einstein, who they were able to reach victory because their talent was they had a privileged talent, right? They had a privileged talent, right? Because they were very smart, right? And that has nothing to do with your lineage. It's something that you can engrave and something you can establish within yourself through your being smart with your time on earth, and making sure that you're really cleaning up your space so that most of your space can be filled with concentration, a sense of participation, and a practice with your whatever creative niche that you have, rather than all your space is taken up by all these unnecessary things that you do to fit in, drink from the Kool-Aid and get everybody like you, but then you realize, man, I'm just in debt and I have all this cars and expenses and it's just draining me, right? Or have these relationships, but it's just draining me because it has nothing to do with my creative expansion. It's just I'm repeating past things because I'm bored, or I don't know how to move forward, right? So if you don't know how to move forward, don't just get into whatever, because people do that and they're bored, they just get into whatever. Don't do that, because you actually you start to look like a lot of people, they start to look very desperate, and they start to look very empty, because when you just fill yourself up with bread, people know that you're just eating bread. You're in a relationship that's bread, a job that's bread. But really, when we get smarter is when we start to really creatively solve things, and we start to feel our character becomes very credible. We have merit, and therefore we have something to offer. We have something to give that is very, very special and unique. But when all we do is just fill ourselves up with bread and just bread relationship, bread things, our character is bread. People don't go to people who character that's bread. People go to people with a character that's like a full course Vedic meal with all the yummy, yummy, yummy stuff. Because that means that person is a very yummy, yummy, yummy person to be around. And people want to be around people who are yummy, yummy, yummy people, not people who they're just bread personality or bread character. So, build space for change is bullet number 2 for this season of movement. Build space for change. Build space for change. So this is about, tidying up the person, place, or thing. Build space for change. Like I said, if you fulfill this American dream and you're doing all these things and getting all this debt and getting all these relationships, and it just feels burden and a rut, and it's just, you're filling up your time and it feels like a bar scene. That is not going to make you a prestigious character, right? It's not going to make you feel noble. It's going to make you feel like you're wasting your time and you're just forgetting what you want to do, right? You're forgetting to wake up early and practice. You're forgetting to, you have no energy because you're drained to write that book or paint that thing or whatever it is, right? So build space for change. So this is about, your home. Make your home like just a temple. Make your altar the most beautiful thing, right? It's making yourself feel beautiful. Hang around people that you're around and you feel beautiful. Not hang around people where you feel ugly and you just feel bored and it's just random and it feels miscellaneous and it feels like it's making you forget what you need to do, right? Be around beauty, right? Be around beauty. Build space for change. Change is about beauty. Whenever we want change, it means we want more beauty. When things are getting boring or when things are getting ugly or when things are getting really unruly and things are getting disorderly, we say, I want change because I need beauty. Because beauty will always bring you back to order and back to rhythm. When there's beauty all around, you tend to be more rhythmic and orderly. So change is about, I want more beauty. Right, and that's why we fight for it, and that's why we warriors and we make revolts and all these things, because in the French Revolution, when things get so disorderly, so unruly, just plain nasty and ugly, and things just get real nasty or conflict, a demand for beauty is a demand for change. I want beauty. I'm tired of seeing these nasty people doing nasty things to each other. I demand beauty, right? And sometimes when things are really disorderly, like chaos, it can be very challenging to bring back beauty when we get so used to like being ugly and unruly and careless and just stealing from each other, right? So build space for change. I'm building space for change, which is I am demanding beauty. So I'm creating a beautiful home. I'm clearing out the clutter. I'm beautiful people, right? I'm clearing out relationships that all we do is get drunk, or all we do is have sex, or all that kind of whatever we're doing that makes me feel ugly or makes me feel low or makes me feel tired. I'm clearing that out. The things that I have in my house, or the things that I do, or the things in my mind, or the habits, behaviors, I'm decluttering that, and I'm bringing more beauty into my thoughts. I'm bringing more beautiful music in my radio, right? I'm giving more beautiful sort of meditations to myself that can help me to feel more beautiful in my thoughts. I'm going to do exercises that make me feel beautiful in my body. I want to, I'm going to, go forest bathing or surfing because it makes me feel beautiful. It makes me feel like a beautiful dove or a beautiful whale or, a beautiful horse or whatever it is, right? I just want to feel more beautiful. So build your space for change, right? Put everywhere around your house plants. If that's what really the scent of it makes you feel beautiful. Have a garden. Bring trees into your backyard. Right? Clear out the photos of the past of these past, your great grandpa in World War II. Clear out anything that really feels old and out of date and about the past and the karma of the past and repeating the past and the nostalgic, sentimental sympathy of the past, the blame, the shame of the past, and really put in everything that speaks new age, that speaks Renaissance. Get pictures and put them all over your wall of pictures of Renaissance, pictures of the future, pictures of new age movement, of creativity and imagination and books, of fulfilling destiny. You should look around your house and it should be like you're looking into an art gallery of the future of yourself. You're looking at your home should be a place you go in and you're looking into your future self, where you have everywhere on the walls things that you're going to do and things you're going to excel in, right? That you're already pursuing and preparing yourself for, right? Build space for change. Even with the people you're around, hang with people who are smart like you or smarter than you, who are generous or something to give, right? Or places, right? Go to places in your time off, your free time, that it really inspires you, gets you thinking in higher ways, gets you feeling in better ways, right? And things, again, put things in your sacred things, crystals, whatever it is, photo, pictures that really get you thinking in expansive ways. So build a space for expansion, not for karma and the repeating of the past. Build a space for change, which is build beauty in your mind, in your home, in your car, in the places you go to. It should feel like you're enhancing your beauty. So the last bullet we have in this season of movement is respect the path. Respect the path. So this is an interesting sort of bullet, right? Because challenge will always be. Creative problem solving is our tool. So respect the path, because your path is going to be different for Sally Sue, Jane, Blaine, whatever it is. Your path is going to be different and your challenges are going to be different. Respect the path is also saying, I take on the challenges with grit and charisma, right? Because your path may seem more challenging than Sally Sue, right? Because let's say Sally Sue comes from a lineage of, a privileged lineage where she can already have it set up for her, right? And let's say you don't come from a privileged lineage and you have to build it up from ground zero all by yourself. And you may look at that challenge and be like, damn, like that's not easy, right? I have to build it up from zero. And she's already at, plus 10 because, her mother and father already did a lot of work, right? Respect the path is saying so what this looks like, and respecting the path, is that you're going to be giving tests from the universe. You are going to be initiated, right? And the more you expand, the more life demands of you, right? So you're going to be given tools, of course, right, on how to, get stronger, so that when these challenges that, they get more intense, you can have a tool so that you don't collapse, so you don't break down. So the divine is always going to give you what you can handle. So what you have in your life, you can handle. Whatever challenge it is, you can handle it. It's just a matter of fact of you were given a tool. If you've been using the tool, if you've been not been using the tool, it's going to show the difference between how you're handling it, like creative solving wise, or how you're handling it as in breaking down and losing all hope, right? You were given a tool. It could have been the simplest, subtlest thing, but if you neglect that tool, the challenge will be very, very pressurizing in a way that you're going to feel like you're going to be broken down. But, right, we all have a tool, and that's the thing about self-mastery and the thing about, expansion and prosperity, is that we're all given a tool, right? Because the more that we do give, and the more that we feel, beautiful, and the more that we take risk and chances and step up and step into our dharma and begin to, get more creatively prestigious, we could say, right? The challenges are going to come. And they're going to come different for all of us, right? Well, we're going to have to ask ourselves tough questions. We're going to have to end relationships that maybe we were in that were serving us for a time being, but now we know, it's time to, we're being, right, summoned into a new phase of our life that may not include that person, right? Respect the path. And it also means respect the path of those around you, right? Because we can't fix anybody, right? It's when you respect the path, you understand that there's your path and then there's your people with you. And some people, they fall out and they go do their own thing, right? And you do your own thing. But when you respect the path, you are, the challenges that you're facing, the challenges that you're in, it becomes great discovery, right? It becomes something that you are excited to solve, because a part of Dharma and a part of manifestation is that you want to creatively expand. And creative expansion really is about resolving and solving these great dilemmas that have us stuck in a past cycle. So you bet if you want a manifestation and you want to be a creative, expander, just like J.K. Rowling, Mr. Rogers, Dr. Seuss, Michelle Gordon, Britt Marling, you bet God or the universe, right, the earth, Mother Gaia, is going to give you challenges that represent past mistakes, that represent sort of stagnant energies, that represent your fears, your phobias, right? Your things that make you question or doubt, so that you can resolve it, so you can solve it, right? So that you can really truly say, I'm moving on from the past. Right? And I'm giving more faith and courage and grit to my dharma, right? And when you respect the path, that's when you start to look in the eyes of others very respectable, because you respect the path that you're on, right? And you respect the path that other people are on, knowing that the challenge that you're faced with, you're excited to solve it creatively, because that's a part of unfolding, and that's a part of moving beyond the restriction, limitations, and just the outdated old past stuff that has people forgetting things, right? Forgetting their inner child, forgetting their freedom, forgetting their sovereignty, and just kind of stumbling into the fitting of everyone fits as drinking from the Kool-Aid. But I don't want to drink Kool-Aid. I don't want to drink the Kool-Aid, right? It makes me sick, actually. It makes me sick and it makes me fat, right? That's what it does. It makes me sick and it makes me fat, right? I don't want that, right? I want something better. I want like, if I could, drink anything, I love like golden milk if I could drink anything. And that golden milk, it makes me feel so good inside. And many people might not like drinking golden milk, but it makes me feel really, really good inside because it's very clean. The Kool-Aid is not clean. It's sugary, right? So respect the path. And then the third season we have, right, is about holding. So it's like holding the posture, holding the pose. And this is the season that can be most challenging, right? Because you got to hold the pose, you got to hold the pattern that you've been creating since you were, probably a child. You have to hold the pose. And this is most challenging because this is when your subconscious tries to come up. And this is when, all your worst fears and nightmares try to come up. Because when you're holding a pose that is very original, that's very new, has nothing to do with the past, it's totally about expansion, you bet your mind, your old mind, the mind of your parents and your grandparents and the society that's very old, right, very past driven, you bet it will challenge and it will want to resist. This is where you'll get a resistance. You'll get stubbornness. You'll get a lot of like, no, I shouldn't do that. I should just go back. No, I should not try this thing. Oh, I shouldn't do that. You got to hold. And then you hold. And the divine time, right, is about the future. The divine time is somewhere in your future where what you've been holding, this mindset, this mind pattern, this mind magic, I like to say, that you've been holding, and even though you've been getting resistance, either from parents, from yourself, from people around you, you stand up. And that's what holding pose is. You stand up. And you say to yourself, no, I need to expand, because what is life without expansion of my creativity? Like, what, am I just bored repeating the same thing at the bar scene? That's boring as hell, right? Or denying myself my inherent right, which is to be creatively prosperous. Like, that's what we all really want. And that's why we get jealous of people who have that, because that jealousy is just simply saying that we were not, when the call came, or when our God or our higher self told us to do something, we didn't do it. It told us again, we didn't do it. It told us again, we didn't do it. And now we feel this great envy because, we were not working on becoming credible in our craft. We were just I don't know, just doing whatever, right? So that can be one way. It could also be it's a motivation, right? In the way that, we're jealous because we know that, we have what it takes. We know in our soul we're capable of, like, if, jealous of J.K. Rowling, right? You just know that you are capable of something just as creatively fine as that person, and it's more of like motivating you. Well, envy is more so you want to take somebody down, take somebody out. So because you think that you take them out, then you can get all the attention and recognition or something like that, which is more so of it's more so of a poverty consciousness and lack mentality, and it's more so of a person who really has allowed their forgetfulness to basically control them. Right, a lot of envy people, they've allowed the bar scene basically to control them in the way that they don't feel they have a character, they don't feel they're credible, they don't feel they have merit, and that's why they attack people who do, because they're upset that they have allowed themselves to be forgetful for so many years or decades. Just FYI. So the bullet point number 1 I have for holding the pose, holding the posture, and waiting for like divine time to, you're basically trying to catch up with divine time, because divine time is like, you have to be, when it comes, you have to be ready. And what I demand of you is a lot. So you better be doing the most, because what I demand of you, if you want to be in this creative expansion, you have to rise up, you have to level up. You have to obey the demand that your creativity is asking of you, even if it's challenging, if it breaks you down, it causes you, end relationships, or to really, believe in yourself or meditate and stand up and be empowered. You got to do it, right? That's what holding the pose is. You got to find whatever thing you can find in your mind to hold it. Because trust me, when you're holding a pose in white tantric yoga for like 40 minutes, your mind comes in and it's like, no, stop. It gives you all excuses, all reasons why you should stop. And that's where your will comes in, because divine time is saying, hey, you got 62 minutes. Are you gonna remain, you're gonna take my demand? You took on this challenge, are you gonna take it? Right? And that's where our will comes in, where we really begin to know, I want to creatively expand. I'm going to hold even if I'm shaking, because I know that the past me and the past of my parents, the past of society and grandparents, all that, wouldn't hold it, because their limitation demands that they can only hold so much, and therefore once they reach that sound barrier, they can't go beyond it. But I want to go beyond it, because that's what a renaissance is. Going beyond the sound barrier, going beyond the previous science and art, right? So bullet 1 is rise above doubt, shame, uncertainty. So this is one of the most challenging seasons, like I said, because you're going to get a lot of resistance from all over, your parents, society, religious, whatever it is. You're going to get resistance. And that's the greatest test, is that can you hold the pose? Can you hold the posture without losing your mind, right? Or going back, or collapsing, or breaking down, or thinking, can you continue to create, even if you're not getting any recognition or attention or getting anything? Can you continue to give? That's the great thing. Can you continue to give and to nourish yourself, even if what you think you're doing or what you think you're offering is not going anywhere? But you are going somewhere. You may not feel like you're going anywhere in your financial prosperity or getting your recognition, but if you know you're going somewhere in your creativity and your spirituality, like you're really growing and you're getting better, whatever it is, at articulation, self-expression, at your talent, your craft, you bet, it's cosmic law that you reap what you sow. It's just a matter of the divine time. The guides will protect you and will make sure that you can have the best they want you to have the best sort of applause that you could get, or the best sort of, timing that would be most beneficial for you. Right? Right? So holding the pose, right? Seeing your creativity as your character, right? You're not going to just give it up. because your character is everything. Without character, who are we? We're really, in the eyes of our society, we don't really have much value or virtue. So don't give up on your value and virtue. Your character makes you virtuous, and if you throw that away or like, oh, I'll give up on that, you lose your virtue. And in the eyes of people, when you don't have virtue as a man or a woman, you kind of, people don't look up to you. They don't look to you, right? They don't look to you for their expansion, because they know without character, without virtue, there really is no expansion going on within a person. And you build your character through following through on your creativity. And if that means you got to resolve, you got to heal, you got to grow, you got to articulate, you got to express, you got to serve, you got yourself, you got to rise up, you got to mature, you do it. Because you know your character demands of it, right? So rise above doubt and shame, uncertainty. So doubt, shame, and uncertainty is main ones that come up. Doubt is about when you keep, holding the pose, and you're holding it and you're not, feeling anything, or nothing's happening. That's when the doubt comes in, where you're like, okay, everything's gone dark. I've put so much light, but everything is so dark, right? Meaning there's nothing, right? Could be years, decades. That's where the doubt comes in. The shame could be about, you have this inner shame from childhood or from your parents or society, where what you're doing doesn't fit, therefore you don't fit. You feel ashamed of yourself for pursuing these things or having these beliefs about yourself or these ideas that you're capable of great expansion, right? So you have to keep holding the pose even when that shame comes in. Uncertainty is really about what you're doing is very unknown, right? So when you're doing something that's very unknown, like a new renaissance, it's very uncertain about, right, the divine timing, about, how things are going to organize. Because when you are on a future projection, you're a futurist, you bet it's gonna be very magical. It's gonna be very serendipity how these kind of things come together. But when you're living in the past and the karma, it's almost like you can predict what's going to happen. Like if you're in a karmic relationship that's the same of all the others, you can almost predict it's going to end like this. And most people, they expect it. They're like, oh, it's going to end like this. I already know, because my 4 other relationships ended like that. But when you're in something that's totally new, it can't be predictable. You can prophesize, but you can't really predict. Because as you continue to expand, when you are expanding, like, you're constantly like growing, and therefore God has to keep up with you, right? And God has to keep reorganizing your blessing according to how much you're expanding within your life. But when you're just in the same in the bar scene, and keep repeating the same relationship and choices and behaviors, it's like God and your soul can just expect what's going to happen. Oh, expect that, you're going to, be in another relationship like this, or, it's going to end like that, But until you start to expand, that's when everything feels unpredictable. It feels uncertain. It's very unknown, because you are a pioneer. That means you're trying to bring something totally new that has not that, like a blueprint, a map to this earth that's completely new. So that's why it's almost like you are the one that has to bring the certainty to your life. The certainty, which is, I'm building it. I'm building it now. I'm doing it now, right? I'm building it now. I'm doing it now, right? In the future, reaping will happen, but I'm doing it now, right? I'm certain that I'm doing it now. I'm sitting down and doing the creativity now, right? And the second bullet, I have strengthening the practice. So strengthening the practice is, again, it's really solidifying this in your brain, and in your brain pattern, your mind wave, right? This sound current that you have, right? Because when you start to really, keep going and growing, and you become, really, you get the hours, you start to educate, you get very studious, you get very masterful, you even begin to teach it eventually, that kind of thing. It's like strengthening the practice is continue to solidify and continuing to, this is really just finding your groove with it, right? After everything, you start to find your groove with it, and you start to feel very content with it, right? Even if you're not getting recognition, attention, whatever it is, when you really start to feel like very, very content with what you're doing, you're starting to feel like you very accomplished in what you're doing, even if it's just with yourself in your own expansion. That's usually an indication that you're moving and shaking in a way that you reap what you sow. It's cosmic law. So whatever you put out, you're going to get back. So if you're really starting to feel like privileged in your art form, in whatever expression, creativity you have, you bet the universe is going to respond, because the universe responds to those who have proven themselves, right? To their own creativity, that they believe in it, right? And then open the mind is bullet number 3, and clearly see. So opening the mind is about deconstructing the karma past and all that stuff, and really inviting in these ideas, intuitions, imagination. Because again, when we're forgetful and distracted at the bar scene, we really don't have any sort of attention towards intuition, attention towards intuition. We just kind of like we clutter, we cloud, and we create all this murk and all this sound and all this noise and interference, all these excuses and delays and dilemmas and all these reasons why, fear, I can't do this, that, and the other, right? But when we open the mind, it's like we're really starting to work on eliminating all of that. Excuses, sympathy, sentimentalness, the fear, the phobia, the distraction, the forgetfulness, overall the forgetfulness that's having us like we're not paying attention. We're not listening to our intuition. We're not listening to our creativity. We're just fitting in, drinking from the Kool-Aid, right? But don't really feel exalted in our creativity, right? And that's when I wrote down in this Manifestation 101 is when I know what I want. So it's almost like all of this took us this long to get to the simple statement as I know what I want. And that's the sort of the completion of these 3 seasons, is to kind of feel like I know what I want. And not just I know what I want as in like moping and pouting. I know what I want. Why don't it happen? It's like I know what I want as a command, meaning you have the merit. You're credible when you say that. You're not, what I want, but you're not doing anything but go on the bar scene, right? This is like you have gone through it. You have done it, and you continue to do it. You continue to listen to your inner child and bring freedom to your life. You continue to build up your character and be credible and have merit. You continue to have the divine timing and use your time wisely and see time as divine opportunity for you to get better, right? And I know what I want, right? And a lot of people, they say that, but then they're wishy-washy, or they're up and down, back and forth, is because they know that they really haven't served their creative expansion. And that's why they say they know what they want, but then they're up, down, all the way around here, looping all this indecisiveness, procrastination, delay. It's because they haven't served their creative expansion, right? They actually haven't really been authentic and genuine about serving their creative expansion. Because if they're still hanging at the bar scene and still doing trying to, they're not paying attention, they're not listening to their intuition, and they're allowing all this shame to like derail them and these kinds of things, it shows that they haven't really gone deep with their creative expansion, or they haven't even really touched it at all, right? So I know what I want is basically a statement as I know I will reap what I sow, right? I know that the karma of my past, and that, the repeating of the past, things and the past energies, I've faced that. I've done it. I faced that. And I'm moving on from that. I'm creating new patterns in my mind that are about Dharma. And now I'm really working on my Dharma, right? The Dharma, which is the future in the Renaissance. It's almost like I know I'll reap what I sow, right? In any way. And I'm doing it right now, reaping what I sow. So it's like I know what I want. I know what I want to do in this moment. I know what I want in my victory, right? So it's not even like you're attached to something, like I want that, like that person or whatever, or that job. It's like I know what I want, right? And I want creative expansion. I want to obey my intuition. If my intuition says that job is for me, I will make it. If it says that relationship's for me, we will make it, right? So it's almost like it's like a confidence. It's like it's a confidence, a genuine confidence you have towards your creative expansion is well pursued, well established, and you are you have earned this very well, right? So this is Manifestation 101. This is from a perspective of a Taurus energy, because Taurus I see in the zodiac as the manifester. So if you want to learn how to manifest, I really feel like it's through the Taurus, because Taurus really is about, again, it's about turning your talents and making it into prosperity. So Taurus is one of the zodiac that really teaches you how to turn your imagination and turn it into something that actually has practical sort of application that can be very victorious over time. So this is like an over time blueprint, right? From like a child to an adult, basically. And Taurus is the astrological zodiac that really represents independent mindedness, taking care of yourself, being dedicated, right, being assured, and also being very beautiful. Because really manifestation is about bringing more beauty and truth to the world, right? Which again brings more order, brings more balance, and just brings more harmony. Right? When we have truth and beauty, we just feel more harmonious as a human being and in our society and government and religious, right? And that's ultimately what manifestation is. You want to bring creative expansion because you're tired of the disorder, the mayhem, the egomania, the chaos, whatever it is that is really unruly or ugly, basically. And you demand beauty and truth. Right? And that's what the Taurus is. The Taurus is like my creative niche, my creative edge, whatever it is. I'm a writer, a dancer, a singer, a scientist, a mathematician, a teacher of yoga, a teacher of math, a teacher of painting. It's really about bringing more of a beautiful mind and a beautiful perspective to life. Because when people have a beautiful mind because they have a beautiful teacher, right, or a beautiful businessman or boss or whatever it is that really has this sort of expansion of themselves, they really have this sort of dharma where they are moving beyond the karmic patterns and just feel good. When you're in your dharma, you just feel good. When you're at the bar scene, you don't feel good. You feel ugly and you just feel like, it just feels like something is draining inside of you. But when you really feel energized and you feel like divine time, where you've been in divine time and synchronicity and serendipity, and you have a lot to give, and you are just this beautiful like healing energy about you, like that just makes everybody in the whole work environment, the whole home, the school, whatever it is, everybody just feels a lot more secure and assured that people just feel a lot more restored. Right, that who they are as a human, who they are as a soul, who they are in like prosperity is restored. Like prosperity is restored, right? Grace is restored, balance is restored, and that's what people really want, and that's what really motivates them, is when they feel restored in their balance, in their harmony. It brings a brighter future. Right, the reason we don't focus on our future mostly we're in the past stuff. We're just hanging in the past and keep repeating the past, is because we don't entirely have the expansion of the mind to be able to see, right, the what do we call it? The renaissance of our beauty, right? Because in this moment now, we're not really aligned with that, right? The renaissance of our future. But the more we aligned is through, again, this path that I set up, the vision, the movement, and the holding. Vision, movement, holding. Vision, movement, holding, right? And then getting to I know what I want, which is saying I'm doing it. It's coming through because I came through. And that's why it's coming through for me, because the universe and I are one. It's a mirror. I came through, it's going to come through for me, because that's cosmic law. And many, many people know that. And that's why they keep coming through, because they know cosmic law states that the universe has to come through. Very interesting.